Hi, we're going to work on problem number 2 from the checkbook packet right now. Problem number 2 deals with a checkbook register, specifically a business register. So I've put up on your screen a couple of different images here that are helpful in helping you to understand what a business checkbook register looks like. So the second photo here, we have an actual picture of a checkbook register for a business. I want you to notice the absolute size of this thing. Checkbook registers for businesses were large 7-ring binders, and the checks would be longer than what you're used to in terms of a personal checkbook, and the register or recording, written recording of what was on the checks was generally attached to the check in the inside. So to give you a close-up view, here we have check number 3078. You can tell the business is John Q. Public from Main Street, wrote out a check to Walmart. But do you see how much longer this is? And all of the check register information is stored here on the far left-hand side in what is known as the check stub. So what we're going to practice with problem number 2 is recording information in a business checkbook that is in one of those large business type checkbooks. So what I've done is I've put together sort of this is going to be a nonsensical kind of demo, but I just want you to see how it actually works in reality. We would have 3 checks, one above each other, just as was in the picture over there. Check 3078 is our first one. Below that, we would have 3079, and below that, we would have 3080. All right, so what would happen is we would have somewhere on this check stub the balance of what was in the bank account. And then we would write out this check. So we're going to pay this to the order of, let's just say, Reinhardt Foods. That's a business here in La Crosse. So we're just going to say Reinhardt Foods. We are going to pay them, let's say, $480. And we'll write that out for $480, E-I-G-H-T-Y, and no cents. So we'll do 00 over 00. Today's date, we're just going to fake it here. Let's say this is August 5th, 2012. I'm making it up. This was for the hot dog fundraiser. And the check was written out by Bob Smith. Okay, if there was, let's say, $700 in the account, we would have, let's say, $700.75. That would be over here on the side. And then this item was $480. So we're going to put the $480 up here in the corner. And we're going to put the $480 right here on this item. All right. Now, we know it was to Reinhardt Foods. On August 5th, 2012, and it was for the hot dog fundraiser. So we're going to put hot dog fundraiser there, R-A-S-E-R. There were no deposits. The total money in the bank was $775, which gives us a subtotal of $220.75. There were no other deposits, so $220.75 is what's there. Once I have that check stub filled out, I would tear out this check It's usually perforated. I just had to do some clever folding to try and get it. And then this check would come out of the checkbook. And this check would go to Reinhardt Foods. It would be sent off, mailed off, dropped off, however it would get there. But do you notice that once this check is gone, the only thing I have to register the information is this check stub. So these check stubs become the only record of a written check. Now, that plays into how we fill them out. So let's do problem number 2. Okay. Problem number 2 is a listing of the information, and we're going to go from there. I'm going to give you a few tips and such along the way, but let's start at the beginning. We have 7 pieces of information and 3 checks. You'll recall from the first example that once the check is written out, no more information is put on the check stub. So once I've written out the check $4.39, no more information would be added to the check stub $4.39. So while Part A gives us a starting balance of $265.73, that would go in our balance forward, $265.73. Check. On February 12th, 2008, check 439. This is check 439. So for February 12th, 2008, check 439 in the amount of $175.05 is written out to Biloxi Bank for a car payment. The entire top portion has been filled out, which means I have written out my check. No further information is placed on this check stub, just the information from A and B. And with that, I can fill out the rest of this check stub. There was not a deposit. And because there was not a deposit in this information, I make sure to draw a line through that particular row. That way, no one else can alter the information, make information up and place it in there, or try to change information that's already there. There was not a deposit, so again, this second line, or the second row, I'm just going to put a straight line through. There we go. This gives me a total amount in the bank of $265.73. This item was $175.05. And I'm going to be subtracting it because it's coming out of the account. This leaves me with a subtotal of $90.68. There were no other deductions, so my balance after that first check is $90.68. This balance goes into the balance forward of the next check stub, $90.68. That's the only thing that gets carried on to the second check stub. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go back up to my information. And from there, I see that in Part C, I have February 15th, 2008, a deposit. So I'm going to put the deposit on this check stub of $377.10. I can fill out information until I write check 440. As soon as I write out check 440, I can put no other information on this check stub. So Part C is a deposit. It's between the check 439 and 440, so it goes on check 440. On February 18th, 2008, check 440 is written. So February 18th, 2008, check 440 in the amount of $149.88 is written out to Fitness Equipment Company And again, I'm not going to abbreviate, for a set of dumbbells. There was not a deposit, but when I add the two of these together, I get $467.78. This item is $149.88. I am subtracting this item to give me a total of $317.90. There were no other deductions, so $317.90 is the balance that moves forward onto the next check stub. That's the money available for the next check, $317.90. Now that I've written out the second check, I can look at the information E, F, and G. In the information of E, I see a deposit of $570. $570 was deposited into the account. On February 27th, there is a debit card purchase of tires for $225.10. What we would do with this is it is a debit card purchase, so it is not check 441, but we do have a spot on here of other deductions where we would write to the $225.10. We could write that in and make a record of it there. If we wanted to be clear, we could put debit tires in there so we knew how and why, but that would not be mandatory, and it certainly would not be something that I would grade you on. All right, I just want to make sure you put that $225 in the other deduction column. All right, then in Part G on March 3rd, 2008, we do check 441. So my March 3 goes here, 2008, check 441 in the amount of $23.40 goes to Royalty Cleaners in the amount, cleaners for my dry cleaning. Now, there were no other deposits. The total of the two deposits is $887.90. This item was $23.40. That gives me a subtotal of $864.50. We're going to subtract again $225.10, leaving us $639.40. We filled out all three of the check stubs. All three of the checks have been written. Everything is in the correct space. I have put a line through, or in some cases zeros, where there were no deposits or deductions in order to fill that space so it cannot be altered.